Everyone, welcome to today's writing lesson. Today is Wednesday, so we're going to be working on lesson 3 and we're looking at informative writing. Let's go through our learning intention and success criteria. So today we are learning to plan an information report about an Australian animal. So really important here, we need to remember what kind of text we're writing, and it's an information report. I can gather information about an animal's classification. I can gather information about an animal's appearance. I can draw and label an illustration of the animal. So these are the 3 things we're going to be really focusing on today when we start to gather information for a new information report that we are going to be writing. So if you remember from last lesson, I went over the 4 very important steps to writing an information report. So we had step 1, which was to research information, finding our information. And then we had step 2, which was to gather our information and put it all into our gathering information chart. So that's our most important information that we would like to include in our report. Step 3 was to actually write the report. And then step 4 was to use our checklist to check the report and make sure we've got everything we need. Today, I did say we would be focusing on a new information report, and what you're going to be doing is writing your own information report now about an Australian animal of your choice. So last week, we all wrote an information report all together about lions. So we all wrote the same things because we were practicing how to write an information report, put all our information all together and follow the steps properly. Now that we have a better idea of how to follow the steps, we are going to use what we know about writing information reports, and we're going to now write our own ones. So just to give you an idea of some of the animals that you might write about, I've put a picture here of many different Australian animals just to give you some ideas. So I can see kangaroos, koalas, sharks, emus, a dingo, a wombat, snake, platypus, cassowary bird, a Tasmanian devil, kookaburra, an echidna, a crocodile, and a very scary looking spider, and an interesting looking jellyfish. So these are just some Australian animals that might be unique to Australia, which means they are special because you can't find them anywhere else in the world except Australia. So this is what we really need to remember for this information report. You need to be choosing an animal that is unique to Australia. It can't be found naturally anywhere else in the world. So I'm going to be just showing you some snippets, some short bits of information about some Australian animals. And you might like to come back to these slides later. If you decide you want to write an information report about a kangaroo, maybe you might come back to this slide and pause it, and you might see some information here on this page that you could actually use for your gathering information chart. So this is a page about a kangaroo, as you can see. It's got all sorts of information on it, like the classification, the habitat, the diet. They are some of the things that you might need for your gathering information chart. Now, the next animal is a koala. So again, you can see classification, habitat, diet. We've also got some other information like the location, specifically where they live within Australia. If you want to write some extra information or some interesting facts, you could add that information in your gathering information chart. And also population, which means how many there are in Australia. So it says on here that there are about 80,000 koalas in Australia at the moment. And then at the bottom here, we've got the main threats. So things that might be a threat to koalas, things that might be a danger to koalas. So we've got loss of habitat, maybe when people chop down trees, unfortunately that means koalas lose their homes. There might be cars on the road that might unfortunately hurt koalas or kill them. Dogs and dingoes might also put koalas in danger. So as you can see, these little fact sheets have lots of information that you could maybe use for your gathering information chart when we get up to that. Another one is the echidna. So again, we've got lots of information about the echidna here. So if your choice is the echidna, you can come back to this slide and pause it and read this information. We've got a platypus. So if your choice is a platypus, you could come back to this slide and read this information. Next one is a dingo. Here is the information about dingoes that you could maybe use if you chose to write about dingoes. The next one is possum. If you've chosen to write about possums, here is some information for you. Now, because it's your turn to write your own information report, I thought I would give you some more information about how to do that research on your own. Now, of course, you might have a parent or a brother or sister in your house helping you, and that's absolutely fine. But I just wanted to make sure we all know that there are different ways that we can conduct research. And one of the ways is through books. We can learn a lot from books, and some of you probably remember some information books that we have at school, in the library, or that you might even have at home. Now, I've highlighted the word home here because that's where we all are at the moment. We're all at home, even though we can do research at school or in the library. We can't do that at the moment. So we're going to be focusing on books that we might just have at home. And here is a picture of some information books. So I wonder if we look in that stretch of books there, I wonder if we can see any that might be about animals. I don't think I can really see any about Australian animals, but I can see a book here hidden at the back about ducks. And I can see one here that says something about penguins maybe. But there are all sorts of other information books that can be read. You know, something about trees or the weather or space. So depending on the topic you're writing about in your information report, you need to look for the right books for you. So we're focusing on Australian animals now. So I don't think I really would be needing a book about dogs or cats or ducks. Okay, we need to be really focusing on animals that are unique to Australia. So have a look at home and see if you've got any information books at home that might be about Australian animals. Now, the next one that we'll look at is the internet. So a lot of you might have the internet at home, and you might use the internet from a computer or a laptop or an iPad or a tablet or an iPhone or some sort of smartphone. So you could use any of those things to access the internet from home, whatever is available to you and whatever you're allowed to use. So here are some pictures of some things we could use to get onto the internet. So we've got a desktop computer. So that looks very familiar because that looks like the computers we have in the computer room at school. And some of you might have a desktop computer at home that you could use. You could use a laptop computer, which is still a computer, just a smaller version. You could use a tablet like an iPad, an iPhone or a smartphone. And a really important tool that we might use on the internet is Google. So your parents or your older brothers or sisters might be able to show you how to get to Google and how to research something on Google. So for example, if you have chosen to research koalas, you would go to Google first and then you would type in the word koalas. So then you can find some information about koalas. Now the last one we'll look at is television. Now this is something that maybe you might not be able to switch on the television at any time and get the information you want straight away, but maybe you can remember a documentary show or a documentary film that you've watched in the past that might have had some information about Australian animals, and you might be able to remember that information and use it in your information reports now. So here are just some pictures of some things that you might see on TV. So you might see a video. You might see a show. So we've got here a video about elephants and a show about lions, a show about all sorts of animals for kids. That's a show for kids. And the last one is called Amazing Animals, and it's a show about crocs. So you could find on certain channels on TV, maybe National Geographic is a great one that can teach you about different animals. So today we are really just focusing on researching and gathering information for three parts of our gathering information chart. We're not trying to finish the whole chart today. We're just focusing on some of it first, and then we'll do the rest next lesson. So today you need to, number one, research and gather information about the classification. Okay, so we want to write a classification today, or write information that we can use for a classification today. So remember, in the classification, we need to write about whether it's a mammal or an amphibian or a reptile. What kind of animal is it? Next one, step 2. We need to research and gather information about the appearance. So the appearance, if you remember from our other lessons, is focusing on what the animal looks like. So we really want to research information today about the animal's appearance, what it looks like. And the last one, sorry, my video is covering that at the end there, but I think that we've got most of the information that we need. The last one, step 3, is to draw and label an illustration of the animal, because that goes with the appearance information. When you draw and label an illustration of the animal, you're showing the different physical features of the animal. You're showing what is special about the animal's appearance and what it looks like. So I'll just go through those 3 very important things one more time. The classification, what type of animal it is. The appearance, some information about what it looks like. And a drawing of the animal which is labeled. So an illustration that you've drawn and you've labeled of the animal. Now here is our gathering information chart that we will be using to gather our information, and you all should be very familiar with this gathering information chart now. We have used it before. So it's really important to remember that for our gathering information chart, this is not our completed information report. If you remember when we were writing our report about lions, we then took the information from our gathering information chart and we then wrote it into a full information report with full sentences. So on the gathering information chart, you actually don't have to write full sentences. Even though last time we did write full sentences, that was more just so we could get some practice on how to write some information about animals. But to make this process quicker for you now, and because you are becoming better and better at this process, you don't need to write full sentences on this chart. You can just write words. So you're simply collecting information. You can write short notes about the animal. And remember to use keywords that show the most important information. So I'll show you an example of what that might look like now. So remember today we are focusing on the classification, and we're also focusing on the appearance. And you're also doing on a separate piece of paper or on the back of your paper a labeled drawing of your animal as well. So for the classification, instead of writing a full sentence today, you might choose to write a shorter sentence, or not even a sentence, just some keywords like this. Kangaroos, and then a dash, marsupials, and then in brackets I wrote mammals because kangaroos are mammals, but they're a special kind of mammal, and that's called marsupials. So try not to get too confused when you do your research today. Kangaroos are still mammals, but they are a special kind of mammal called marsupials. So you can write both of those words down if you like in your classification. So you can see I haven't put it into a full sentence. I haven't worried about a full stop and making sure it makes a whole lot of sense. I've just put the most important words in there. And then for the appearance, you will see that I have just listed some aspects of the kangaroo's appearance. So I have written long tail, pointy ears, brown or grey fur, long legs. I haven't written it into a full sentence yet. I haven't started my sentence with kangaroos have a long tail, pointy ears, and all of that. I've just written a short list of physical features of kangaroos that I might want to then put into my finished information report. So this is what you should be focusing on today. Just researching information about your chosen Australian animal and then putting some of that information or keywords into your classification and appearance today. Now, I did mention before that you would also be doing a labeled illustration of your chosen animal today. Remember, there were three things: the classification, appearance, and the labeled illustration. So here's my labeled illustration of a kangaroo, and you can see I've got my lines ready for my labeling, and these are the things that I'm going to label. Brown fur. I've chosen to draw a brown kangaroo. Pointy ears, long tail, and long legs. So those actually were the things that I had written on my gathering information chart before in the appearance section, and I didn't have to do any other extra research for that. I just took that information and I used it to label the different parts of the kangaroo's body. Now here is a list of websites that you can use to research Australian animals. And I have also provided this list on the slides, the week 8 writing slides that you would have seen in order to get to this video. So parents and brothers and sisters, if you are helping out today, then you might like to choose all or some of these websites to have a look at today and help the student pick an Australian animal. Sometimes researching on Google can take a bit of a long time, and it doesn't always take you to the right information or to very good information. So these were some good websites that you could use to research Australian animals, and you can click on these in the slides for week 8 writing. I've also provided here some videos, some links to videos that you could watch about Australian animals. So you can see on the left-hand side, there are just some general videos about Australian animals. And then on the right-hand side, I've actually included some drawing videos. So if you are unsure of how to draw the animal you have chosen, or you're finding it a little bit tricky, you can pick from this list and you can watch a bit of an instruction video which shows you how to draw that animal. So the ones that I could find were kangaroo, koala, kookaburra, wombat, echidna, platypus, emu, possum, and cockatoo. So if your chosen animal is there, you can definitely watch an instruction video. So hopefully you are now ready to start doing your research for your Australian animal that you have chosen, and you are able to start putting your information into your gathering information chart. I just thought I'd show you our checklist before you all go off and do that, just to remind you that you can look back at the checklist to make sure you've got everything you need. And just remember that today we're really focusing on our classification. So what type of animal it is and the appearance of the animal, what it looks like. And to go along with the appearance, you're also drawing a labeled illustration of your chosen animal. So when you have done those, in your head, you can mentally tick off the things that you needed to include today. So that would be the classification and the appearance. And if you've done both of those things today, then you are doing an amazing job. So if you are ready to start now, you can stop the video here and off you go. Just make sure you come back so we can end the lesson. All right, so let's reflect on what we did today. We are learning to plan an information report about an Australian animal. That's exactly what we did. We are planning. We're still in the planning stage because we are still researching information and putting that information into our chart. We're not quite ready to write a full information report yet. We're just planning it at the moment. Success criteria. I can gather information about an animal's classification. We did that. I can gather information about an animal's appearance. We did that too. And I can draw and label an illustration of the animal. We've done that too. So hopefully you achieved those 3 very important steps today. If you are unsure of anything at all with this lesson, remember you can always go back, rewind the video, pause or stop at any point if you want to see something again. Thank you so much for listening to today's lesson, boys and girls. Miss Coote and I can't wait to see the information you have started gathering about Australian animals. See you next time. Bye.